Your waking world is shaped by dreams.
He's out there looking for me, isn't he?
Can you imagine the damage he could do?
I need your help. If dreams disappear, then so will humanity.
I could do without dreams for a while. I haven't had a decent night's sleep in ages.
Were you both fans of the comics before, and what were you most excited to bring to life?
No, you go.
Oh, just gonna let me go today. I wasn't as familiar with the comics. I'd heard of the Sandman, but I hadn't read it. And then when I got an audition for this and then started investigating and doing my research and reading them, it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because, you know, it might seem, well, it is a fantasy. It's fantasy world, it's epic, but it's so much more. It's so deep, and it talks about the human condition in a way that I've never experienced before. So I was really excited, and just, you know, even my character aside, just bringing this world to life really excited me. And then going to work and having it there and like be able to touch things and immerse yourself in the world was incredible for me. It was amazing. So, and now I'm a big fan. I'm like, I love it.
I mean, I was aware of the name, the title. It's kind of pervasive in the culture. I was aware of some of the iconography, the images of Morpheus, but I hadn't read it until they sort of started talking to me about the possibility of making it. But the casting process was so long, it took 8 months. And so during that time, I got to read, like, I did read the 2,500 pages that it is over and over again. And I love it so much. It's genuinely something that I really care about. I think it's one of the most important pieces of literature of the last, 30 years. And I became a kind of obsessive fan. And then as far as what I was excited to bring to life, it's the same as Vivienne. I just wanted to go into the dreaming, like as the fan. I wanted to, for me, that world is Narnia and Middle-earth and Hogwarts and all of these things that we care about, but multiplied by the breadth of the human imagination. And just to be able to step into our castle together and like touch our throne and be in these real epic spaces was just magic.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I think all of us have done the deep dive after getting this, but they're hard to. They've been, for me, I'm a bit older, but I think they're hard to avoid. They've been around for 34 years, so they were percolating around high school when I was there. Yeah, they're just the comic.
Yeah, for me, I was a new reader when I came into it, and I found out about it through my audition, and then I subsequently started reading it, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to what they do with the later issues. I hope to see that. But yeah.
What are you hoping to see from the later issues? What kind of sparks your interest?
I don't think I can say, but it has to do with hell and it has to do with dead people.
I like it. I like your resolve. So for you, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was your debut on television?
Yes.
So how was that, and what were the challenges in bringing something as abstract as the Vortex to life?
Yeah, so it was great. An honor. I didn't have many challenges, and I'm really thankful that I didn't have many challenges, and the script laid it out so well. It was a well-written, they were well-written scripts, and I was able to just naturally slip into it. I didn't have any direct challenges. My only thing was that in the comic, I could only do so much. You can read the pages. I was speaking about it with Stephen yesterday, but the characters, they're stuck in panels, and there's, you get just like one frame and then the next frame, and like so much has happened in between, each frame. So there's only so much you can do. So I read it, but when it came to, constructing her personality, especially with the changes that they had made, because she isn't exactly like the way she is in the comics. So I had, when it came to constructing her personality and, doing a deep dive into what her background would be and the new circumstances, because her mom's gone now, and her mom was alive in the comic. It was more just me, I suppose, being a builder, being an architect, and like creating that, and kind of creating my own kind of Rose, within, the boundaries that I had, but, creating my own kind of Rose, because otherwise, I couldn't just rely on the comic. I had to, make something new and make something solid so that I had enough to, kind of go off of.
Kirby, I was really intrigued by your version of death. It was like so much less scary and ominous than the death that we know. It was like a gentle Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
And the thought process behind that.
Yeah, well, fans of the comic will know that Neil very much presented a very, very different idea of death than has been sort of, more, that has been seen sort of, that is more prevalent in pop culture, let's say. I mean, it's like you said, it's the Grim Reaper, it's doom and gloom, it's dark. And Neil created a character of death, which I believe is sort of a sort of best case scenario, almost a utopian version of death. And if death exists here because life exists, what can that be? And I think what you come up with is the best case scenario for the end of someone's life is that they are comforted and they are guided and they feel no fear going into whatever is next. So for me, that was really, it was really incredible to play that idea, because we've all experienced loss in some way. And I think that we all hope for the best. We hope that there is comfort. And so it was really, emotional for me to play a role like that.
I think it was really, I think the episode's called The Sound of Her Wings, and it was one of my favorite episodes because of that reason as well, but also because it reveals a lot about Morpheus between his relationship with death as well. I think you learn a lot about him through the two of them and their interaction. Was there a lot of discussion around how you filmed that and how to kind of go forward with that?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, so much of the discussion came, dream and death are two concepts. They're two endless beings. They are literally of the family, the endless. And so many of our conversations came about how do we humanize these two concepts? And, them being siblings, what we did was lean into that relationship where we are just two siblings walking and talking, and though we are talking about the biggest things in the universe, we're essentially trying to find a connection. I'm trying to connect with my brother and get him out of this funk. And so we lean so much more, you have to sort of step away from how huge these characters are and step into the more familial, really intimate relationship that they have.
I know in other interviews, Tom, you've spoken about Morpheus's physicality and how important it was for the characterization.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult was that to kind of embody and kind of be in that physical space?
There are so many aspects of his physicality that were important to me. It's simply because he doesn't express himself traditionally often, and so the way that he moves, I think, could be an enlightening way of how he could articulate himself. But the main thing was at the beginning of our story. To put it bluntly, he's nude and silent for 45 minutes, and I had to find a way of showing that he was not human, that he was an endless. And so I wanted just to build a body that felt like a creature, and was true to the images that are in the comics, which meant just kind of, it's someone whose flesh has just burnt away and is just sinew and bone. And as far as how difficult that was to achieve, I mean, it was in the sense that it required discipline and working out and not eating that much. But actually, like, acting is such an ephemeral job. Like, we're constantly trying to like catch clouds when we go to work, and to work out is really easy, like, because you just do like the 6 things they tell you to do and it happens. Whereas if someone says like, be Hamlet, you're like, what?
I feel like I could be Hamlet more than working out, because my thighs are telling me that. I'm on the 6 things that they're telling me. So.
I will say the working out and the not eating would have killed me that combination.
Listen, it wasn't that much fun, but what was killing me more was the burden of like all the millions of people who care about the characters so much and like trying the responsibility of fulfilling their dreams. That was weighing me down more than the than the weights.
I love the dynamic between Lucienne and Morpheus. Why does she stay in the endless when everybody else has left? Like, what makes them so close?
Do you know, I'm getting asked this question a lot. I just believe that there is a deep love there. These two beings, Morpheus has spent the longest time out of anyone with Lucienne, and she understands his work. She understands the importance of the realm, how, people's unconscious, they go to dream, they're literally themselves. There's nowhere else like it. And it's so important because everyone can go there. It doesn't discriminate, religion, race, everything. We all dream. So I think that because she respects him and she understands the work, she stays because she's his right hand. She's loyal to a fault. And she knows that he will return. Because she knows him, she knows that he wouldn't have just fled and not come back. And I think there's that mutual understanding. And that's why she tries to very gently remind him of who he is, because he's been so affected by the brutality of his inhumane capture. So I just believe that she is, she just understands and is loyal.
How integral do you think that relationship is to the show?
How integral?
Yes.
I think it's kind of the spine. I mean, as Vivienne said, Lucienne genuinely is the being that he has spent most time with. Like, I mean, his siblings, that family is so dysfunctional. They don't see, they flee each other. Lucienne is the person who understands him, and I think that when you spend millennia with somebody else, as Vivienne said, it does breed a love, and I think that they have a kind of formal relationship because of the hierarchy between them. But what was so exciting playing the scenes with Vivienne was the complexity of that underlying deep love that belies all of the kind of formality and the sort of responsibility and duty that they share.
In the comic, your character, she loses the ability to love when she gives her heart to her grandma.
Oh.
I just wondered whether you'd like to see that in season 2, or if you thought it was going to maybe transpire.
So I don't think I can say much about this because it is about, future seasons. I will say I haven't gotten to read, I know that it happens, but I haven't gotten to read that for myself. So I don't know how it impacts Rose. From a selfish perspective, I would hope she doesn't. I would hope they somehow work around it. But at the same time, it did, give there was something extra for her character to, kind of go through and work through. No. I know exactly what you're talking about because we see it after the whole aftermath and when she's back with Jed and her mum in the comics. And we did go a different route, so she doesn't have that kind of emptiness at the end of season 1. So I think it probably would be a bit different.
When your character, the Corinthian, is sadistic, manipulative, really brutal, was there anything out of the box that you did during your audition to kind of make them envisage you as that character?
I learned later on why the audition process took so long. It was simply because of how each and every single person, the thousands of people that auditioned for it, took off the glasses. And I made the same mistake in the audition, which is this it's hard not to take off your glasses and it be a moment. And so I just found a very casual way where it's something where I took off the glasses and it wasn't a big deal, you know, and I think that's just time and space when you are not familiar with something, it is something because it's brand new to you. But when you've been this for 100 years, it's you know, it could be very subtle, and then the reveal is different.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we found that out in I think episode 3 or 2 maybe. Jamie Childs, who's a wonderful director, him and I just kind of got it where it was just a peek, and then in a different shot it was the reveal. So I think that was the sort of needle in the haystack for us.
Does your role, Death, make you think about death differently in a way that maybe perhaps The Good Place didn't? Because
It's funny, actually, you're the second person who's drawn a comparison between The Good Place and this role, and I hadn't done it before, which I feel very silly for not. But absolutely, I mean, in The Good Place was so, like, I don't know, of course we were dealing with the afterlife, but it was in such a different way. Whereas, you know, this version of death, this idea is, you have to almost take like a forensic approach to looking at death in a way that I've never had to before. So my view and my thoughts on death have completely changed, and I think about it constantly, and not in a dark way, just in a very contemplative way, because it is something that we spend so much time avoiding, but it's also something that's inevitable for absolutely everyone and everything that has life.
more philosophical, I guess, than The Good Place is light and cheery.
Yes, hands down the most philosophical role I've ever played, yes.
Jenna, your character, Johanna, she is very mysterious. Is she the descendant of the Johanna Constantine that we saw in 1789, or is something else going on?
No, I think this is where Neil and Alan came up with the idea, because obviously we have Lady Johanna Constantine, who I played this series as well. So the idea being, why don't we have the direct ancestor in form? Hence, Johanna Constantine.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface with your character. Can you tell us a little bit about her or her past? Is there anything we can glean from her?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, a lot of people who know and are familiar, like with Constantine and you know that we see her very much going about her day-to-day business, and now she's at the point where she's kind of at the top of her business, like trading life. She's exorcist to the royal family. She's doing well for herself, but I think the further and further she progresses, the more contact that she has in her occult detective life, the more it's costing her, and the more people that she's losing, and the more wounded and tortured and lonely I think that she gets, because everyone that she comes close to, she's losing. And I think that vulnerability, the more vulnerability that she has, the more she has to lock herself up and armor herself away. And I think that's where the cynicism and the kind of disenchantment, but also wryness and humor, like using humor all the time to mask pain. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the meeting of Constantine and Dream is so beautiful, because Dream sees straight through to her dreams, where she doesn't open the door to anybody.
Do you think the Corinthian's really gone?
Is he ever gone? Is anything ever gone? You know, as you were talking about the comic books, the comic books go on and on. He's reincarnated later on as a different entity, as a good guy. So I think that's something really fun to play with, to already have known him as such this dark entity, and to see what a lighter entity of the Corinthian would look like.
Now, did you guys have any the Sandman related nightmares or dreams while you were filming?
Thankfully, I didn't. I don't think many people, I mean, unless someone says something different, I don't think many of us had much, I don't think we had it really affecting our sleep. I mean, Stephen yesterday said that, like, it did end up, after he watched the show, that's when he had some, like, dream. Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry,
Yeah. But, I haven't. It didn't affect my sleep or my dreams or nightmares, thankfully.
You know, it's funny dreams. Before we started shooting the Sandman, I think I was talking with like my voice coach or something like that. And we was like, it's like, what are your dreams like? I don't have dreams. And then I started having dreams. And I'm still having them. So it's interesting how they kind of go on and off. I'm also like, I've had a 3-year-old and 4-year-old last couple of years. And so I think every time I went to sleep, I just went into a deep coma.
What was the kind of best advice you guys got about playing your characters?
Well, I think there's this trap that if you're playing an ethereal entity type of creation, that there is this to elevate it. And I think that's the trap of doing that. And you just there's just to be real about it and to root it in reality and not to have this, you know, whimsical character. I think that's always a trap with any of these comic book characters.
Lucifer has got some great and terrible plans for Morpheus.
I love that.
How worried should we be? I mean, you know, I feel like when the ruler of hell is making plans, you should watch your back.
Tom, you already mentioned this, but you had to spend a lot of time naked for that role. What was that experience like for you as an actor and for Morpheus himself, who was kind of stripped bare because of all the things he went through?
For me as an actor, it just is what it is. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, you don't, you know, it was my first month on set. No one knew me, and you know, you're like, hey, this is me, and you're in a glass sphere.
Like the Naked Dream.
Sorry.
I said it's literally like the Naked Dream.
I mean, genuinely, like, I mean, but it's worse because it's not a dream. And I was in that sphere, and they couldn't open it, so because it took too long. So, and because it's a glass sphere, you can't have a blanket in between takes because it's glass, and the blanket still would be there when you shot. So I'm literally just sitting there like for hours, just kind of like when they say cut, going. Like, all right, like, so that was that. As far as the character goes, I was really important because I think, you know, one of the things about Morpheus is that situation, that century of imprisonment is the most vulnerable he's been in his existence, and Morpheus is someone who, you know, consistently or continually appears to be invulnerable. And to explore that opening inside of him, which I think is the arc of his story within our season, the arc of someone who it begins to feel because they've been broken open.